Welcome to another CIO East Africa webinar. Today we are focusing on superhuman customer service, AI integrated customer service, which is basically around customer service as a self-service. And, if you just look at the journey of how we've been engaging with customers in the last decade or so, it was always a brick and mortar situation where customers walk in and out of our premises to engage with us as businesses. And then we moved into the phone engagement, which became big, where we all had call centers, and that was combined with the brick and mortar. And now we've reached a point where it is all about self-service. We have no choice. Customers should be able to, to sort themselves out using technology. And that technology should be able to actually predict the customer's needs and be able to respond. So Freshworks is here to talk to us about this today, and I'm really looking forward to this session. As usual, we're going to do a presentation, and then we will go into the Q&A. House rules, please post your questions in the Q&A window. If you can't hear us, if you can't see the presentation, please post that in the public window, chat window, so that we are able to engage with you. We have a few polls that are going to run. You will be advised when to start responding to the polls. I am excited to introduce Michael Gitau, who's the CIO at KPMG, and then we're going to have Vishal Chopra, who's the head of marketing at Freshworks. So to kick us off, we will have Michael deliver his presentation, and he will hand over to Vishal after that. I really do look forward to an engaging session. I really want to see, the new face of customer service, and to be able to take advantage of it no matter where we are at any time from any device. So gentlemen, I'm handing over to you. Michael, the floor is yours right now. Thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to a great session.
All right. Thank you very much, Laura. So mine is really more of an appetizer to what Vishal will be delivering, which is really the main course. And I just thought that it would be interesting for us to sort of just have a look at where we are in terms of the whole AI space and the sort of the, you know, like the current state. And quite fortunately and luckily, KPMG had conducted a very intensive survey earlier this year. So this is quite new information in terms of the insights and everything. And the survey looked at 5 sectors. And this is a global survey that looked at healthcare, financial services, transportation, technology, and retail. And so some of the findings we'll be looking at will really touch on perception. So the whole idea behind the survey was to actually sort of try and gauge where the world is as far as perceptions around AI go. And so there'll be a lot of numbers. I certainly won't get into this. As I've said, this is just an appetizer to sort of just give us a sort of a feel on where we are, on where the world is right now. And then I'm sure we'll get into some of the use cases and the like in the next presentation. So this is just a statement, something one of the principles in the AI space at KPMG has said in terms of as far as algorithms go, and that is that algorithms are playing an increasingly important role in business and decision making. So it's essential that people trust those decisions. And to do that, we must ensure the integrity, fairness, expandability, and resilience of our AI models. And we'll begin to look at some of those highlights that she's mentioned in terms of AI ethics adoption. So these findings actually looked at 8 areas, and one being the speed of adoption, and that is what's the promise of AI? What can organization look at? And under financial services, we looked at disruption, especially within the banking system, within the banking sector, hype versus reality. So where are we really? Again, under retail, looked very specifically at improving customer service, employee readiness and preparedness for adoption. So where exactly where are we? Is there a disconnect between the leadership and the people? Under healthcare, we looked at improving healthcare experience, and in the technology sector, where we looked at how then are we, especially the players in the technology sector, how are we going to lead the way, considering we are uniquely positioned as players in the technology sector? Then there's a transportation industry, where we found a lot of caution, understandably. Like if you think back on some of the incidents we've had with self-driving cars. Now, some very interesting insights here. Again, for most industry insiders, AI is not about a future promise. It's really about what can it help us achieve now. And if you look at an interesting statistic here, that 9 out of 10 leaders actually expect that AI will help the organization run more efficiently. 41% think RPA will have the greatest impact. if we look at the state of AI deployment, again, it's really about how are we, the key thing is here. The key thing here is on how are we going to overcome adoption hurdles. And one of the things, if you look at adoption, you realize that healthcare has the lowest level of adoption, and obviously the issues around healthcare would be around, data sensitivity, data protection, and privacy. And of course, you have, interestingly, 79% of 79% and 73% wishing that there would be a lot more adoption. Then you've got technology and transportation leading the way. But then, interestingly, a lot of players in the healthcare sector seeing a lot of potential in the space, irrespective of very low adoption in that space. Again, challenges to AI adoption. I think this is really nothing new here, especially in an African context. When you see 50% of people talking about difficulty in hiring AI, AI talent skills, 46% talking about lack of understanding technology capabilities. This is really nothing new. And again, even again, if you cut it down to a sectoral perspective, where you're seeing again, where we have higher adoption, obviously, then the players in that sector have sort of realized more of the challenges. So where, lack of employee skills needed, it's not surprising that it's going to be in retail, that it's going to be in financial services, where we also seeing, high levels or a higher affinity and attraction to AI. So again, so one of the steps. So how do we begin to deal with some of those challenges we've seen and sort of begin to change some of those figures? So building a data literacy in the organization is obviously going to be a huge way. It's going to be a huge it's going to be a huge thing. So when you talk about data literacy being a two-way street, we are looking at, so we've got these really experienced people there, our data scientists and the experts, but we've also got our employees who are in the business. And the whole idea here is that we've got to make sure that we are building the skills evenly across the board. So not just focusing on the, on the experts. When we talk about, again, another factor that could easily, that again is a no-brainer when you talk about AI is employee concerns. So you've got, quite an interesting statistic here that says 2 in 5 employees have concerns about job losses. And I guess as leaders, and I guess maybe the call to action here is that as leaders, we really got to sort of start having a more strategic conversations on AI. I think a lot of them, a lot of the application is fairly reactionary. Is that we want to cut costs here, we want to achieve this. What about taking a step back and trying to build efficiencies first, looking at a broader sort of mandate as far as AI is concerned. Again, what can companies do to prepare for inevitable government regulation? I think this is it's become quite a huge conversation, and if we had more time, I'm sure it's something that would be of interest, to sort of discuss further. But preparing our people, developing a strong and strong oversight and governance around AI in the organization. All right, thank you very much, Laura. So mine is really more of an appetizer to what Vishal will be delivering, which is really the main course. And I just thought that it would be interesting for us to sort of just have a look at where we are in terms of the whole AI space and the sort of the, you know, like the current state. And quite fortunately and luckily, KPMG had conducted a very intensive survey earlier this year. So this is quite new information in terms of the insights and everything. And the survey looked at 5 sectors. And this is a global survey that looked at healthcare, financial services, transportation, technology, and retail. And so some of the findings we'll be looking at will really touch on perception. So the whole idea behind the survey was to actually to sort of try and gauge where the world is as far as perceptions around AI go. And so there'll be a lot of numbers. I certainly won't get into this. As I've said, this is just an appetizer to sort of just give us a sort of a feel on where we are, on where the world is right now. And then I'm sure we'll get into some of the use cases and the like in the next presentation. So this is just a statement, something one of the principles in the AI space at KPMG has said in terms of as far as algorithms go, and that is that algorithms are playing an increasingly important role in business and decision making. So it's essential that people trust those decisions. And to do that, we must ensure the integrity, fairness, expandability, and resilience of our AI models. And we'll begin to look at some of those highlights that she's mentioned in terms of AI ethics adoption. So these findings actually looked at 8 areas, and one being the speed of adoption. And that is what's the promise of AI? What can organization look at? And under financial services, we looked at disruption, especially within the banking system, within the banking sector. Hype versus reality. So where are we really? Again, under retail, looked very specifically at improving customer service. Employee readiness and preparedness for adoption. So where exactly where are we? Is there a disconnect between the leadership and the people? Under healthcare, we looked at improving healthcare experience. And in the technology sector, where we looked at how then are we, especially the players in the technology sector, how are we going to lead the way, considering we are uniquely positioned as players in the technology sector? Then there's a transportation industry, where we found a lot of caution. Understandably, like if you think back on some of the incidents we've had with self-driving cars. Some very interesting insights here. Again, for most industry insiders, AI is not about a future promise. It's really about what can it help us achieve now. And if you look at an interesting statistic here, that 9 out of 10 leaders actually expect that AI will help the organization run more efficiently. 41% think RPA will have the greatest impact. If we look at the state of AI deployment, again, it's really about how are we. The key thing is here. The key thing here is on how are we going to overcome adoption hurdles. And one of the things, if you look at adoption, you realize that healthcare has the lowest level of adoption. And obviously, the issues around healthcare would be around, data sensitivity, data protection, and privacy. And of course, you have, interestingly, 79% 79% and 73% wishing that there would be a lot more adoption. Then you've got technology and transportation leading the way. But then, interestingly, a lot of players in the healthcare sector seeing a lot of potential in the space, irrespective of very low adoption in that space. Again, challenges to AI adoption. I think this is really nothing new here, especially in an African context. When you see 50% of people talking about difficulty in hiring AI, AI talent skills, 46% talking about lack of understanding technology capabilities. This is really nothing new. And again, even again, if you cut it down to a sectoral perspective, where you're seeing, again, where we have higher adoption, obviously, then the players in that sector have sort of realized more of the challenges. So where, lack of employee skills needed, it's not surprising that it's going to be in retail, that it's going to be in financial services, where we also seeing, high levels or a higher affinity and attraction to AI. So one of the steps. So how do we begin to deal with some of those challenges we've seen and sort of begin to change some of those figures? So building a data literacy in the organization is obviously going to be a huge way. It's going to be a huge it's going to be a huge thing. So when we talk about data literacy being a two-way street, we are looking at, so we've got these really experienced people there, our data scientists and the experts, but we've also got our employees who are in the business. And the whole idea here is that we've got to make sure that we are building the skills evenly across the board. So not just focusing on the, on the experts. When we talk about, again, another factor that could easily, that again is a no-brainer when you talk about AI is employee concerns. So you've got, quite an interesting statistic here that says 2 in 5 employees have concerns about job losses. And I guess as leaders, and I guess maybe the call to action here is that as leaders, we really got to sort of start having a more strategic conversations on AI. I think a lot of them, a lot of the application is fairly reactionary. Is that we want to cut costs here, we want to achieve this. What about taking a step back and trying to build efficiencies first, looking at a broader sort of mandate as far as AI is concerned. Again, what can companies do to prepare for inevitable government regulation? I think this is become quite a huge conversation. And if we had more time, I'm sure it's something that would be of interest, to sort of discuss further. But preparing our people, developing a strong and strong oversight and governance around AI in the organization, align cybersecurity and ethical AI. Obviously, there are issues there. Mitigating bias, and we've seen this becoming a very huge topic where AIs are not able to pick people of certain races. If you say you're talking about surveillance, and also increasing transparency. Sorry about that. The ethics of AI. Obviously, companies need to address ethics around deployment of AI technologies. So 90% of companies actually agree that they should implement an AI ethics policy. 44% companies already have implemented an AI code, and I guess this is that's an interesting statistic for you to sort of weigh yourself against. Again, governing of AI, 75% with high AI knowledge believe government should be involved. A bit of an inevitability, but I think again we are getting there with time. Again, what can be done? Against these are just some of the views that came through. That 47% of the participants actually support investment in R&D around AI and are willing to actually make that investment. 39% support reskilling of employees. 36% are actually investing more in AI initiatives. So key imperatives moving forward, I think, in terms of where, in terms of getting to where we want to be is obviously building integrity into AI. I think there is this sort of a black box, and I would say it's sort of something that needs to be demystified in terms of how we adopt AI. When we talk about fairness, again, this is really dealing with issues of balance. Of bias in AI. Depending on the application. Explainability. We really have got to be able to explain to anyone, to anyone in the organizations, from the board all the way down, what is this? So again, just speaks to that whole sort of black box status that AI has, has sort of gotten, that this is, the machine, that the machine is taking over, sort of thing. Resilience, again, we've got to persist. We've got to keep at it, and we've got to stay focused again as much as possible. Make AI, make adoption more of a strategic than more of like a quick fix thing. That marks the end of the short presentation. As I say, this was an appetizer. I believe this will be shared in more detail. This is more of an executive summary, and we also have the full report that I believe can be shared with the participants after the event.
Well, Michael, thank you so much. I will, I guess, I would now take it over from you. And Michael, thank you so much for this appetizer. I'm sure it would have made the audience more hungry for the content which is going to follow. So thank you so much for setting up the context and taking us through what is the state of AI basis the survey that you did across all the industries, be it government, be it, transportation, and so on and so forth. I think the tips that you share, the resilience, integrity, explainability, and all of that, I think we will get in details of it. So for the audience, Michael did talk about the state of AI as we see it in various industries. I would basically, then talk about me and my team. Sanjay and I are actually from Freshworks, and we will be talking about how AI or the chatbot is going to be of use in your organization. And we will actually, go in detail of the how part. So Sanjay is actually controlling the presentation. Sanjay, thank you so much for doing that. Let's move to the next slide, Sanjay, and let's go to the Freshworks introduction. I think I can also do the slide. So, all right, cool. So before we get into it, I thought that we will just, quickly give you a brief about what Freshworks is, in case if you are not aware. So Freshworks is, running in its 11th year. And we were actually founded back in 2010. And we have been very fortunate to actually being backed up by the best of the VCs in the world. Thus far, we have raised 400 million in our last round of funding. We were valued at 3.5 billion USD. And in fact, interestingly, we are the first overseas investment for Google Capital, or Capital G, which is Google's investment arm, or venture capitalist arm of Google. Before the pandemic happened, before COVID happened, we were actually present in 12 countries. And as our CEO, Girish Mathur says, now from 12 offices, because everybody is working from their home right now, we are now 3,000 plus offices across the globe. And that's rightfully so, because this pandemic has actually kind of forced the entire organization and all of the industries together to be very creative in how we communicate, how we work, and how we get our work done. Not just internal, but also external with the customers. As I said, we have been fortunate to serve a range of customers across a wide array of industries with 200K plus businesses. We are able to serve them across 145 countries. And at the bottom, you would see some of the familiar logos from Middle East and Africa, especially Africa, MultiChoice, for example, and Deadbusters, and so on and so forth. So we have been fortunate to serve the African clientele, and some of these customers of ours are truly big in nature, and we have been able to do a lot of innovative stuff with them. So with that, I will now switch the gears and get into it. I just want to do a quick check. Sanjay or Felix, if anyone can just tell me if I'm sounding right, because I'm getting some static on my voice.
Yes, Vishal, I think I can hear you very clearly.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. So let's now, before we get into it, I think let's get the audience engaged. And I would certainly want to gauge the essence of how AI, what is the state of AI in your organization? So can we have the first poll, please? Okay, so you can actually see the poll on your screen right now. And the question is the state of AI adoption in customer service in your organization? What is the state basically? Is it already deployed? Is it, are you still experimenting with it? Are you at a phase where you are still not using AI? And are you at a phase whereby you have not even thought about it, which is option number G? So would appreciate your response to it. So thank you all for sharing your responses over the poll. As I read it, there are almost like half of you, which basically so 44% said that they have already deployed. So 24% have said that they have already deployed AI in customer service, which is fantastic. Congratulations to all of those who responded that they have already deployed. And again, congratulations to all who are saying that they are experimenting with it. I understand that AI is still not that mainstream when it comes to customer service in Africa. So I can understand that almost half of them are actually already using it or at the verge of using it, and almost half of our audience today is actually kind of debating in their mind that should they go ahead or not. I think that is the dilemma that we have seen across, and we would be more than happy to actually address some of the potential concerns that one may have with respect to the AI, and especially AI in the customer service domain. Let's go to the the current realities. Why AI has become more, I would say, prominent and critical in the current times. So if you really see, there are three things which are actually happening today. Because of the pandemic and the uncertainty which is involved, there is a lot of anxiety with the customers. In fact, we ourselves are customers, and we would actually certainly have some anxious moments whereby it gets very difficult for us if we don't get the response because of the travel restrictions, because of the traffic restrictions. We honestly do not know when the order would be coming to us, if it is, let's say, a food delivery or it's a e-commerce platform that you have placed your order on. So there is a lot of anxiety in general, and because of that anxiety, the customer contacts are all-time high too, and especially for those who are in healthcare or related medical services. The second point, which I think I already mentioned, because of this heightened sensitivity or anxiety, they are really, customers are really expecting a timely support. So what is happening? It's a double whammy. If you really see, organizations are either partially open or they are going through a office lockdown situation whereby all of their employees are working remote, including of Freshworks. If you really see, we are working remote and working from our homes right now. And what it really means that the entire staff is scattered, and so is true with the customer support staff. There are, because of this predicament, there is a budget cut. There are a lot of other variables which are actually moving. A lot of economical crisis which has actually brought upon because of this pandemic. So it's a double whammy, because at one hand, for organizations, their employee or the customer support team especially is actually working remote. At the same time, their information is scattered. If the information is scattered at various silos, then it becomes even more difficult for an organization to serve their customers or address the needs of the customers. And the other thing, as I said, on the other side, customers are actually going through a lot of anxiety, and they are certainly expecting more support and timely support more than ever. What we realized that when we connect with those end customers, and while we were working with the prospects across the globe, we realized that there are three key things that a customer would want. And if you really ask us, these are the three key components that your artificial intelligence or your chatbot should be able to do. So one being effortless. Now, what is effortless? It should offer minimum friction to your customers, so that what they need is actually the information that they are needing, that actually is given to them in the shortest possible manner, and the right information is also served to them. So that's about being effortless. And how it would be done, we will get in details of that. We will go in details of each of these three pillars. The second one is proactive. Now, as I said, anxiety can actually happen because you do not know when things will come to you. You do not know what will happen next. There is uncertainty. So how about you become proactive? How about, even before your customer reach out to you, you tell them that because of the travel restrictions or traffic rules, your order would be, say, delayed by, say, 2 days, for example. Or, for example, I can give you a personal example of mine. In the last 2-3 months, when I was trying to reach out to my bank, there was a simple message which was actually played before I was put in touch with the customer executive, which was that, because of the lockdown, we are working with lesser staff. So we appreciate your patience, and you would be handled, or your queries will be handled in less than 5 minutes. So I would say, just by that communication, just by setting the expectations, and just by telling me that because of this situation, we may take longer, but then we will address your queries shortly. I think that's absolutely the right set of communication. That's also being proactive. At the same time, it's also being empathetic. Because with being proactive, what you also get is the ability to address the concerns, and the ability to extend your empathy and empathetic messaging around your services and products. So these are the 3 pillars, and as I said, we will get in details of that, and we will also take an example of some of the organizations who have kind of nailed it really nicely. So from that perspective, before we get into it, so let's get for the effortless scene. And as I said, there was one research. So let's also understand, how bots can actually make it a little effortless for people. So the research that was conducted that actually asked this question, and they basically, tried to assess how much of automation that can be done, and how much of that automation is good for an organization. So research actually kind of found that bots are capable of handling 25% of the queries that typically comes in. So what really happens with the remaining 75%? That is the obvious question that one may ask. That is where, if you go in details of that, you would actually realize that the current set of bots, or the way many organizations have actually worked with the chatbots, is they have actually kind of just work on the bots at a level whereby the bot is just able to address their L1 queries. For example, an example of an L1 query would be, what is your return policy, for example? And what it actually resulted in is, one happy customer, but then there are 3 customers on the other hand who had bad bot experiences because their queries were actually not addressed. And typically in that range, it's a level 2 or L2 query, as we call it. So what are the things that an L2 query would actually really mean? An L2 query would mean a little bit of complex detail. For example, it may say that, when is my order going to arrive at the address or at the location? So what the bot needs to do is just not going to be restricted to your Q&A or your policies. It would have to actually connect with your order management. It would have to actually connect with your inventory. If there is an integration, if there is a two-way information flow between the bot and the other products that you have, or the technology that you have, that is where those L2 complex queries could also be addressed. So what is really required today, what we have actually realized and observed, that many of these queries which are at L1 level, they are absolutely kind of addressed very quickly. Like you can see in this diagram also, 15% is absolutely taken care of very nicely, and it results into a happy customer. So questions like, what's your refund policy? But this heavy percentage in between, which is almost half, 45%, which is advanced L1, or basically touching to the L2 phase of it. Now it all depends on how organizations basically define L1, L2, and so forth. But then in a typical scenario, these advanced L1 is nothing but, as I said, it would require some sort of automation. It would require some sort of decision making with the information that is coming back and forth from various other systems. So often we have seen many organizations actually fail to leverage this 42%, fail to leverage to program their bots so that they can automate this 40% too. Now imagine the possibilities if you can automate this 45% and keep this remaining 40%, which is highly complex and which would certainly need human intervention, because it's to do with the advanced troubleshooting, It could be a bug with the product. It could be, reporting of, say, a bad transaction, or reporting of a financial fraud, and something of that nature, where urgency is important, where, acting upon is really critical. Then in those cases, you can obviously surpass the bot and connect with the human, who would actually guarantee you a faster and I would say a quicker response to the severity of that situation. So imagine the possibility if you actually get that 45% of that middle addressed quickly with the bot. And if you combine that 45 with 15, that becomes 60%. More than half of your queries can actually be addressed by chatbots. And what it essentially means that out of those, in the previous slide that we saw, that there were 3 bad experiences with the chatbot, because of this middle portion, 45%, that can be addressed quickly, and end result would be a happy customer. So I will just give you a quick video of how it is done in the context of say Freshworks, and how a bot could actually be a source of transaction as well as a point of customer wow in customer experience. Sanjay, can we play the video? All right, I can see it. Yeah. So there is no audio to this video, but then what it really means is that this is a two-way interaction that you're having with the bot. So typical scenario, London Zoo, the bot is actually welcoming the buyer is actually asking for how much is the ticket cost, and then it goes on to basically say that ticket price for a child and adult, and then the bot actually is enabling that payment gateway then and there, and off you go. Not only this bot in this example, as you can see, it not only addressed the regular questions, but then it also became a point of sale for the organization. So this is a real life scenario, and that can be, that's how a bot could be powerful in terms of scaling your efforts, not just for customer service, but also on the point of selling. So it can do both of that things for you. Thanks, Sanjay. And by the way, audience, apologies for actually going back and forth on the slides, because the videos were actually not being played. So we are going and sharing our screens. But back on my screen, and moving next on the part of, we already covered the effortless part of it, but then let's get into the next part of the equation. I would like to actually take you through a case study, a great example from India. But before I do that, let me actually do a quick poll. And again, it's sort of an engagement just to assess what kind of challenges. We saw that half of you actually have already deployed AI, and other half you are actually trying to think of it. So the poll is already on your screen right now. So the question is, what are the main challenges of deploying AI in your business? And we would certainly appreciate your responses to it. Right. So we'll run that for a couple of seconds. I can see the majority now dancing towards it. Okay, so just to read out the poll, the responses, almost 20% of us have actually said that is the lack of collaboration between departments. I think an equal amount of the respondents have said that it's the lack of integration between the systems. So it's basically lack of collaboration or integration. And the another 20% is actually on the skill resources, and 30%, which is the majority and the highest one, is lack of technology. And 4% of you have said that there are no major challenges. So I think the majority of us actually feel that either there is no technology, or there is less collaboration between departments, between human or between the technology or various products that you have. So, and the third part is, of course, the skill resources to basically take care of the bot and keep it up and running. In fact, just in that extent, let me actually give you a example. As I said, this is one of the customers that we have in India. For those who do not know who PhonePe is, PhonePe is India's one of the fastest growing digital payments app, and it has got more than 150 million customers. In fact, I'm not surprised if they have already passed 250 million customers in this phase of lockdown right now, because everything is actually running digital right now. And from the transaction perspective, they actually have 6.5 million businesses on their platform, which actually do anything from credit card and utility bill payments to mobile recharges and fund transfers. The company processes almost 400 million transactions per month. And the volume, basically the kind of scale that you can see, the volume doubles every 3 to 5 months. In fact, as I said, because of this lockdown and because the currency restrictions in terms of the exchange of the physical currency, I think in this scenario, this volume would have actually doubled already in the last 2-3 months. That is the kind of skill that PhonePe is actually looking at. And if you really see the transaction types, there is a great variability in the transaction also. Customer buys everything from milk to jewelry, and you in India you would see that there is so much of digital transaction happening today that even a roadside fruit vendor would actually have a QR code of PhonePe and others. You simply scan your mobile, pay your payments to them. So it's actually happening at the grassroots levels. End of the day, if you really see, that is how the market has changed. But from a customer perspective, even though they are transacting, say, whatever amount of dollars, say $5 or be $1,000, they certainly expect the uniformity of customer service. For them, that's the money that they have transacted. And if something goes wrong with their payment, like say the payment is failing, or let's say the payment is actually stuck in between, the anxiety level, you can understand, it will just shoot up. And that is where it's so critical for any company who is into the who's handling the payments to basically offer prompt resolutions to the transactions and prompt resolutions to the customer queries, because one failed transaction could mean somebody is actually losing their money, or somebody is actually losing their I would say peace of mind for the transaction that actually happened. So as I said, because of the social distancing norms and various things that are actually coming in, digital payments are now mainstream. And the good part is that PhonePe is actually able to deflect 60% of the regular queries. Remember that bar chart that we show, 15% and 45%. Now, if you really see, PhonePe is doing exactly that. So they are already at par and kind of addressing 60% of the queries through bot. And for the remaining 40%, which is more complex, as we were discussing, there is a bot to human transition which actually happens, and their human staff takes care of the further tickets, and then they take it forward. Now, one may actually ask that what is the customer satisfaction, or what is the customer experience through a bot versus a human? And in the words of PhonePe, Vishal Gupta, who is head of product at PhonePe, he's saying that customer satisfaction score, or CSAT as we call it, for chatbots is actually higher or at par with the CSAT of the live agents. So that is something which is very fascinating, and that is something that PhonePe is able to actually achieve with their chatbot technology in place. So I would not take the thunder away. In fact, let's hear from horse's mouth. Sanjay, can we play the other video from Vishal, where Vishal is actually talking about, Vishal Gupta is talking about the decision of why they went with Freshworks chatbot, and how they went about it, and what benefits is accruing. Sanjay, over to you. I can see your screen now. So.
PhonePe was formed with a mission to be a universal, seamless, and safe mobile cashless ecosystem. It is now India's fastest growing digital payments app, with over 150 million users transacting with 1.5 million businesses. That's over 220 million transactions a month.
Being in payments, consumers are far more sensitive to any issue when it arises. While even if the issues are going to get fixed in a very short time, the anxiety levels are very high, right? And for that to be able to handle, I think it is very, very important to look for platform solutions which are solving for the right customer experience at scale.
With scale in mind, from day one, PhonePe was on the lookout for a customer experience partner that could keep up while offering a solution to eliminate agent training as a variable. The search ended with Freshworks' Customer Engagement Suite, with its combination of Freshdesk's intuitive help desk system and the AI-powered FreddyBot platform. With Freshdesk's agility and Freddy's ability to deliver context across functions, PhonePe had found a winner.
We have achieved, what we had in our mind to a large extent. Right now, we are on 60% automation, where basically 60% of the tickets or the conversations are not being touched by human at all. The CSAT experience of it is better, or at least par to the manual interaction.
Now that's right on the money.
Thank you, Sanjay. Let me get the control back in terms of the slides. So as you heard PhonePe talking about what they actually achieved with the chatbot and automation. So let's now get into the second part of the framework, which is being proactive. As I was actually mentioning that the anxiety levels are all-time high, and your customers are certainly expecting you to be a little more prompt, a little more empathetic. And what this also means that, instead of they just checking where is my order, imagine if your technology or your chatbot is actually integrated with the other, order management or the inventory systems, and if your chatbot understands that the question or the queries around when the order would be placed, imagine them actually saying that there is a disruption in the, let's say, in the traffic, or there are new restrictions, and we apologize for the delay in the delivery, but you would be getting that in next 2 days or next 48 hours. So imagine that kind of, messaging, and imagine that kind of proactiveness that you can display. By being proactive, I think I have stressed already enough on that. By being proactive, what you also do is to actually address some of the potential concerns that a customer may have with your service or with your product. And imagine, in fact, just one bad experience can actually cost you a customer. And that is what we have always seen. If we are, let's say we feel really bad with an organization or with a service provider, I think at max we will give them 2 chances. And if they still continue to behave the way they are and still continues to actually offer the same experience, I think as a customer, we are, I would say, empowered enough today to get over to the next service provider who could actually offer us better service and better experience. And that is what is exactly happening. And in fact, there are ways in which you are also, kind of letting the world know that be it Twitter or social media and other handles, that how bad their customer experience is. It's just not you who they are actually losing the business on, but then there are a lot of potential customers who would kind of read the reviews or go through the reviews that you have put. And if it is a bad review, then you can understand the kind of business impact that it will cause by just one single bad experience that you will hand to a customer. Now, in that sense, let me actually take you through another case study that we have. Now, this is also from India, and let me actually give you a quick brief about who Dunzo is. So Dunzo is into hyper-local delivery. So it's an all-in-one 24/7 delivery platform that collects and delivers almost anything to its customer demands, from groceries to food to medicine and pet supplies too. So they currently have 600 employees and a vast network of the merchants on their platform who would actually render their services through Dunzo network. And in fact, interestingly, Dunzo actually started with a very humble WhatsApp group with just 25-member team, whereby they actually opened that WhatsApp group and said that if you need anything, just place it on your WhatsApp and we will get it delivered. From that WhatsApp idea or WhatsApp group to today, they are 600 employees strong. That actually talks a lot about the applicability of their business model in the current times as well as for future. Dunzo now fulfills over 2 million orders per month, and for users across India, the entire country. And in fact, the latest that I read about Dunzo just yesterday is that they are also going to basically pilot drone deliveries from hub to hub. They got some approval, pilot approval from Indian government. So these are some of the things that Dunzo is doing. You can clearly see that this company is at the forefront of technology, and they're trying the best of the technology possible to A, deliver the things fastest to their customers, and B, deliver better buying experiences to their customers. Now, when it comes to the customer service part, they basically leverage the power of AI and bots to automate generic queries that they get. And as I said, the L1 plus L2 combination, which is roughly 48% there. So almost half of their queries they were actually able to automate and route more complex query to their support agents. So that's the bot plus human equation that we are seeing here. In fact, from Freshworks perspective, we have always realized that wherever we have actually worked and got the opportunity to work with the accounts, we have seen, and that's been our major observation too, is never bot versus human. It's bot and human together. How bots can actually help organizations scale, and also through the process empower the human or the customer support staff by offering them right information, right context, and helping them with managing more complex and challenging scenarios while taking the mundane or the relevant sort of queries and automating it on their end. So that is what you would actually see. Because of this, Denso not only actually got a proactive customer service and got almost, as I said, half of that queries without human intervention. That also resulted in their cost savings, which is 30% in the support cost that they were able to save. The other interesting aspect, which actually I would like to highlight, is the fact that Denso also realized that, and in fact that's their core cultural value, that happy agents make happy customers. So FreshChat, basically, how FreshChat and the Freddy combo, Freddy is our bot, that's the name that we have. So how FreshChat and the bot combination has actually simplified the agent experience by integrating various things and by getting everything together for the agent to actually see. So Denso captures and unifies all customer information onto a single platform, from order details, delivery partner information to order status, by pulling them through the internal CRM integrations that Freshworks team has actually built with the bot and the various technologies that they have. The other important part is that, as I was actually talking about from bot to human transition, when the bot actually interacts with the customers and handles the queries, before they pass on to the available agent, they actually captures this entire query in private nodes. So they not only pass it on, but they also pass it on the context through which the customer has actually kind of contacted the brand, Denso in this case, so that the customer, the support staff doesn't have to really start from beginning and ask the customer that, okay, how he could actually help him or her. They already know why this customer has actually approached them, what is the issue, and on the basis of that, they would be actually able to help. The other portion that bots can also kind of automate, because if you have customer support teams, or if you have been in the customer support roles, you would have realized that how difficult it is for you to basically file in that information and keep it in your database, all the interactions. There are like at least 30 more fields, 30 plus fields that you would have to actually input for one interaction that you have with the customer. So bots can actually, because of this integration that they have with CRM, with your order management and so on and so forth, they can pre-populate that information from those integration connectors that they have. Essentially, what it means is that it will reduce the time that your support staff would actually invest on filling in that information. Imagine if the bot could actually understand the context and do the agent assist, which means that by leveraging the knowledge base, bot can bring in the the relevant use cases in which the solution was offered. They can actually bring in the use cases and then assist the support staff to basically say that this particular problem, a similar nature of that problem was addressed, and that was a potential solution. So imagine, instead of your support staff having to go through knowledge base and searching through tons of information that is already there, imagine the bot is actually trying to do it for you. So how quick and efficient your support staff would be, and how happy and empowered they would be. So that is how this entire chain really works, and that is what you had actually noted in the PhonePe example too, that the CSAT score for just bot alone is at times higher than to CSAT score of a live agent. So that is a quick story of Denso and how they were actually able to get almost 50% of the deflection rate. Now let's come to the third part of the framework, and I personally feel this is the most critical part, because that is what actually humanifies a brand. And in this case, let me actually give you an example from US. Zappos, as you might know, was actually acquired by Amazon back in the time. Zappos is basically into, it's an online retailer primarily into shoes and many other categories right now. So when this pandemic struck, it actually struck the entire world. This is not, US was affected. All of us are equally affected by that. And Zappos did realize that this pandemic is actually, taking a lot of toll on everybody. And as I said, the anxiety levels, the stress levels, all of that are actually, way higher. So what they really thought that this is the time that we should perhaps, forget about business or not prioritize the business at first, and yet just give a landing here, just, give a helping hand to our customers or anybody in need. So they came up with customer service for anything initiative, which essentially means that if you have to talk anything, any topic, say what you're watching on Netflix or on cable today, where you are actually planning to travel once it's safe to go out, or anything else in their mind, customer search can actually come, or for that matter, anybody else can actually come, leverage their customer service for anything, and just have a chat with the person there. So what really happened in one of those chats, a healthcare provider basically reached out to Zappos, and they would have actually heard about customer service for anything initiative. So the healthcare provider went actually low on the pulse oximeters. So these are the gadgets which actually, clip on your finger, and they actually, kind of measure the oxygen levels in the blood. So they ran out of the oximeters, and they tried their entire supply network. They couldn't find anything, and everybody was running low on stock. So what they did, they heard of Zappos, they approached them, and despite all the odds, Zappos was actually able to source and supply 300 oximeters for that hospital. So imagine the kind of ripple effect, the kind of brand recognition, and in general, I would say, without any returns in mind, when you extend that kind of help, and when you go very empathetic to the fellow customers or to society at large, these are the things that you can do with technology, and these are the things that can enable you to do beyond business also. So from that perspective, that actually brings to the summary part of the last 45 minutes that I had with you. Let me just summarize it for the three key stakeholders, what an automation first customer service approach can actually mean for them. From a customer perspective, it's a 24/7 service. I don't really have to wait for somebody to actually come to office. I don't really have to basically understand what would be their working hours or what would be their non-working hours. If I have a generic query, L1, L2 sort of query, I can still get and get that address by a bot and by the automation engine that is put there. It's about quick responses. It's about faster resolution purely by a bot or a combination of bot and human. From agent perspective, as we really went through the cases of Denso and PhonePe, it saves times and efforts for your agent. It gives them more efficient information, pre-populated information at places, and use cases which can actually help them address that query quickly. And of course, as I said, with the agent assist, you also get a lot of training material which can actually give them real life use cases through which, or similar use cases on which resolution was achieved. From business perspective, I think it certainly is a cost-effective strategy. Beyond the cost, I also feel that when your information is scattered, when your employees are working remote, bots actually give you a way to scale. And scalability comes very handy when you have bots. Imagine the kind of scalability that you can have if you have 50% or more of your regular queries from your customer automated or addressed by bot. Not for the sake of just automating it, but then genuinely with a great concern for your customer and the kind of service that you stand for when it comes to the customer experience. I think a bot can certainly help you achieve those kind of CSAT scores, achieve that kind of customer expectations when you combine the power of both of them. Now, with that said, the follow-up question that you may have in your mind that okay, we understood what Freshworks has done for various customers. We heard Michael talking about why AI is important and what are some of the challenges across the industries. We also saw a few of through the few of the polls that we did that what is the state of AI within the audience that you have today, whereby almost 50% of you are actually saying that you are planning to do something on the AI. So from next step perspective, Team Freshworks is actually, kind of happy to announce that we have put a very detailed chatbot demo day on 29th September. What will actually happen, we will have our chat experts who would actually give you a walkthrough of the platform, and they will actually give you an understanding of how to set up the bot and how it can actually integrate with your existing technology, and any other questions that you may have from any technical standpoint, they would be actually able to help you. I will actually run a quick poll and see if you would really want to attend this demo. We will actually work with the CIO team, and if you just put your response to it, the CIO team will have anyways have registration data. We will work with them and we will register you on the back end, and soon you will get a registration confirmation. So if you are interested, please put it in the options that you see, and we would be more than happy to address any of your technical queries. And if you wish, feel free to refer it to your technical teams or anybody else in your organization who you think should be there on the board, on the demo day, and we would be more than happy to address any of the queries that you may have. While this poll is on, just to give you a quick context, when I joined Freshworks almost a year and a half back, I was actually going through product trainings myself. And to be very honest with you, as a customer, at times I never had great experience with chatbots myself. I did realize that it's a two-way problem. It's not the chatbot alone, because if an organization who is really good on chatbot, there are a lot of chatbots which are available and a lot of mom and pop shops are there. But if an organization who is as sturdy as Freshworks and has as many use cases, successful use cases, there are less chances of going wrong. So what it really means is that you need to actually have a very good automation logic running behind. You need to really program the chatbots well. And as I said, that middle L2 portion, which is 45%, it would require a lot of automation, a lot of information which needs to be fed, a lot of program that you need to do for that chatbot. So that's one part of the problem. The other problem that I also noticed that, and then I think one of the polls, you also mentioned that, some of you mentioned that there is a lack of skilled resources. So from that perspective, I realized that, when I went for this bot training myself, I realized that how easy it is to, just drag and drop and put a simple flow in place. So it's almost like, creating a flow chart. If the question is this, or the nature of the question is this, if yes, then this is the response. If no, then this. If there is something in between that you want to do, then you will put those, logics in place that, go and fetch this detail and so on and so forth. I realized that, how easy it could be with simple drag and drop. Of course, it was a very fairly straightforward example that I went in training with. But then from that perspective, I realized that the technology, if it is done at a level whereby it becomes very easy for the consumers to use, which is the consumerization of technology, I think that actually solves a great problem for everyone. So if both of these things are combined and addressed, which is the chatbot with great experience and a lot of training to it, and chatbots which are so easy to use that you don't really have to have technical skill sets or additional technical skill sets to run it, I think if you combine both of them, that is what you will precisely get through Freshworks. And on that demo day, you would certainly see that. I see the responses, and thank you so much for all the people who responded to it. So majority of you are actually saying that you would certainly want, and we really appreciate that. And as I said, CIO team would, we will work with CIO team and get to your registration details, and Sanjay and team would work in the back end and give you the registration for the demo day. So thank you so much once again for your patient listening, and thank you CIO team for giving me and Michael this opportunity to connect with the audience and share some of the observations as we are seeing across the globe on how organizations are using AI and bots on their customer service. And I would be really happy to take any questions if there are. Me and Michael both would be really happy to do that if there is any.